Across history, violent media has always existed. Stories of the lowest and most brutal of the human race would be spread around the world over hundreds of thousands of years. When gaming boomed, people had a new medium to tell these stories, which didn't sit right with the parents of the 80s and 90s. Unlike previous media, you were really playing as the person doing this violence. Because of this, they would go on to campaign against games for several years in a move that would forever change the gaming landscape. Hello, everyone listening. I'm Lexi Cook with the Buford Stinger, and today on Geek History, I'll be talking about the gaming panic of the 80s and 90s. Now, before we delve into the moral scandal around video games, there's something else we need to touch on. In 1974, one of the first big RPGs would be released, the tabletop game Dungeons and Dragons. You would play the game with a group of friends who would all make fantasy characters with unique stats and classes, and you would all roll dice to determine the outcomes of their actions. People loved this. It gave them a way to be creative and connect with their friends while being able to geek out over fantasy stuff that they would usually get bullied for. With its popularity, it made its way into the hands of teens, and when parents saw that there were demons you could fight in the book, they thought it was satanic worship. For a while, these claims had no real ground to stand on besides the fact that demons were at all mentioned in the rulebooks. However, in 1979, a 16-year-old boy, James Egbert, had went missing. Upon going missing, his mother and the detective that she had hired were both convinced that the disappearance was linked to him playing Dungeons and Dragons. The truth was much less simple. He was suffering from depression and drug usage, which had led to him hiding away under buildings until he unfortunately took his own life in 1980. Despite this, his mother had continued to campaign against Dungeons and Dragons and similar games, believing that they are convincing kids to do this. Situations like this led to the creation of the movie Mazes and Monsters. It had starred Tom Hanks in his first theatrical role and featured several exaggerated depictions, such as a player falling into psychosis and believing he really is his character. One might expect D&D to fizzle out after all of this, after all of those controversies around it, but no. It has garnered millions of fans, a theatrical movie, multiple video games, countless books, a TV show in development, and much more. Even though D&D survived the scandals, they still implanted a new idea within people's heads, that media was being created to corrupt your kids and make them violent criminals. After all of this, parents were already worried, and it wasn't helped with the violent games releasing in the 90s, like Mortal Kombat or Doom. These games were meant for an immature audience, but parents still saw video games as just the new fad for kids. So they got the games for their kids, and when these kids brought home these games full of blood and gore, parents got worried. Parents created parent groups who went to state governments, and state governments went to the Supreme Court. Most of their case was centered around Sega's Night Trap. Night Trap is a game where you work as a special operatives member, trying to save a group of teenage girls from vampires trying to invade their home. Night Trap is considered tame and silly by today's standards, but it's just what they needed at the time to campaign against violent video games. These campaigns inspired the creation of a new government agency, the ESRB. The ESRB is a group that reviews video games and assigns them an age rating: E for everyone, E10 plus for older kids, T for teenagers, and M for adults. This wasn't enough for some parents. Some parents wanted video games banned entirely, which didn't happen. Luckily, the new age rating system allowed parents to know if their kids should be playing it, even though people don't really listen to that to this day. These campaigns weren't just left in the 90s, though. Games like Call of Duty, Fortnite, and other popular games are still being accused of inciting violence within kids, and people calling for the entire banning of video games as a whole. No matter what the future holds, that's the end of this podcast. I'm Lexi Cook with the Buford Stinger, and if I'm lucky enough to do another episode, I hope you're there to listen to it. Have a nice day, everyone listening.